Hello, Art One. So this is Mr. Schreiner coming to you live from the art room, explaining our second 9 weeks journal entry. So we're going to go through it quickly. Of course, as always, you'll find lots of other resources on Schoology. You'll find this file, or should have found this file already, in the second 9 weeks. And in the second 9 weeks, you'll see sketch journal assignment number 2. So let's go through this. So it's called Blackout Poetry, and it is due, meaning it must be uploaded into Schoology by midnight on December 2nd. So what is a blackout poetry? It's where you take existing text from a book and you black out everything with the exception of a few words that you compile or put together to create sort of a funny, funky poem. Ideally, what should happen is it should have sort of a poetry feel to it. And it's a lot of fun because when you are finished, you take the negative space, the empty space around the written words, and you create an image. The image is up to you, but it should somehow relate to the poem, silly as it might be, that you've created on the picture. So you can see an example here on the right-hand side that was done exactly that way. It's called blackout poetry. You don't need to actually black anything out, but you should block out. You could be called blackout poetry just as easily. So in this particular screen, you're going to see a Blackout Poetry Maker. It's actually a link we have practiced in school where you open this up and you practice the idea of making a poem out of a page. It gives you a couple examples and you can see what happens. You're going to be doing this in a 2-page spread in your sketchbook. And of course, on this slide, you can see examples of that done by students as well. So, as I said, you're going to use 2 pages in your sketch journal to create the blackout poem. You may either choose from the variety of old books that I have here in the classroom. I have a couple photocopies of some random book pages of some more popular books, or you may, of course, bring in your own book pages or use them, or we can even photocopy them because we have the copy machine here in the classroom. So if you have an existing book and you'd like to use, we can make copies of that, and you could glue those into the pages in your sketch journal. The key here is, once you make the poem, is to dynamically fill the space, the negative space, the empty space, with a design or illustration that relates to the poem that's left in the positive space. And as I said, it's due on the 2nd of December. You want to make sure, as I said, to use a book in the room, a favorite book, or you could find an excerpt online. Again, you could copy it, put it into a Google Doc, share the Google Doc with me. I could print those off also. So let's go over the getting started. You're going to have 2 in-class days to work on this. So while it is homework, if you don't finish, if you spend your time wisely, you can get a lot of it finished during class. You want to find the words that stand out to you and then try to compile that poem based on that. You're going to use a pencil and draw around those words so you know which words you're keeping. And then, of course, make sure that you string the words together so that they make meaning. So you want to read the poem a couple times through when you're finished to see how that it makes sense. Let me just tell you a little secret. You don't have to circle a lot of words. In fact, if you looked at the examples I'm providing you, you don't have to circle a lot of words. You're better to circle the words that make meaning and then sometimes use that negative space however you want. If you want to try a little personal challenge, you could use conjunctions like or as to tie it together a little bit, or you could actually isolate words or block out the words so that it actually also creates a picture. I've had people who've made a poem blocking it out, making a smiley face or a heart. You could do that as well. Let's go on to the next slide. So as we said, illustrate around it, and you're going to see those examples all through the examples that I gave you. There's a video here that you should feel comfortable watching, and she's going to share more ideas with you. I'm not going to go through it here, but you should click and link on it to get some more info. So what are you going to be graded on? I guess that's the thing everybody cares about. So obviously, do you follow all the directions, just the ones that I gave to you and that you can read here on this screen? Are you making sure that your design is balanced, meaning that it isn't too heavy to one side, top or bottom, left or right? Are you using those different types of line styles and line weights, different extremes? If you're always using the same, obviously your artwork is not as interesting. Have you chosen a color scheme and used the media that interests you? So in the back of the room, I have obviously marker, I have watercolor pencil, I have watercolors, I have acrylic paint that you can black out with or white out with. Whatever media you'd like to use to experiment with to get your illustration point across is just fine. But did you think of a color scheme that's unified? Again, looking at all the examples that I shared with you here on this slide presentation. And did you take visual risks? Did you go big and fill the space? Did you try new challenges by trying a new media? Did you try a new technique with that media? Did you do some dribbling with some watercolor? What did you do that showed risk-taking and experimentation? Because after all, that's the point of these sketch journals, is for you to take artistic risks without little fear, because of course they're not finished works of art, and hopefully you'll learn some new things about what you're capable of, and you're willing then to use them in the future on other artwork. And of course, at the same time, did you show high craftsmanship and neatness? Do you not have random or straight pencil marks? Does it look like all the pages are clear and easy to read the poem, but it's also clear and easy to read the imagery? So hopefully that gives you some insight and it all makes sense. But of course, as always, if you're in class with us on the first 2 days of the unit, you've got class time to start it and ask me lots of questions. And remember, again, this is due December 2nd.